Welcome to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School, where we explore all kinds of things, stories about quilting, tools, field trips, maybe some famous quilters stop by, and of course a little bit of copyright thrown in just for fun.
I'm Elizabeth Townsend-Gard. I'm a law professor at Tulane University Law School, and I just wanna quilt.
So this interview is part of our special series on new media and internet studies. We're talking with students from Ron's class, Dr. Gard's class at Tulane University, and they've been assigned and they've been working all semester on various aspects to help the Just Wanna Quilt project. So today we have Jensen, who is going to talk to us about data.
Hello, my name is Jensen Hellmers, and I'm calling you from my apartment here in New Orleans.
Awesome. And you are a student at Tulane, and you're part of Dr. Gard's New Media and Internet Studies. And the class has been helping us out with different topics related to the things we're doing with Just Wanna Quilt. And tell me what your topic is.
My topic is form building and data gathering.
Cool. So form building. So we came to you as a class because what we found is that we needed to create different ways of gathering data about people who were either part of our Facebook group when we were at Houston, we were doing giveaways, we were doing all kinds of different ways. Now, can you help me explain to people listening, why were we gathering data? Like, what is data and why are we wanting to gather it as a social media project?
Yeah, well, I mean, from the get-go, Dr. Gard and you and I discussed that form building and data gathering in general is just such a large and general topic. So we tried to funnel it down into seeing what we could do in terms of generating a greater following for Just Wanna Quilt, because I know that's a big goal of your guys is to get possible endorsements or whatever.
I think exactly. So part of the experiment is trying to understand this beast that is podcasting and social media. Mm-hmm. And what we've learned is that having a Facebook following is awesome. Having people listen is great. But what people are really interested in, strangely, is this data gathering, getting email, getting data about who's listening. And so that's what you and I and Dr. Gard have been working on in terms of your project. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So we have to answer the second question, which is, do you have any memory in your life of someone sewing or quilting or giving you something handmade?
Yeah. I grew up with my mother quilting. She was always very, she's an artist, so she was always very into creating things with her hands. And she even made me learn how to quilt.
Really?
I haven't quilted in a very long time.
Really?
Probably since I'd say freshman year of high school. But she was always into sewing and knitting and quilting. And so when I told her about Just Wanna Quilt, kind of the marriage between my class and Just Wanna Quilt, she was so excited.
Oh, really? That's really great. We'll have to have her on. So what did you make when you were making stuff with your mom?
We made they were like table mats or
placemats,
placemats, exactly. And that was kind of like the most simple thing that I could do without, I don't know, stabbing myself on like a machine or anything like that.
Totally.
And I think I tried to make like some sort of ship or something. It definitely didn't look like that, but my mother definitely did a good job of encouraging me along in my quilting career, I guess.
Very good. Well, we are very proud of you in your quilting adventure.
Yeah.
That's very funny. Well, cool. So we're going to talk about a bunch of different resources for gathering data. And let's start out with why do people gather data? There's you in your YouTube video, you talk about that you made for the class that they were enhancing the customer experience, data collecting, and boosting a company's online presence. So tell me about each of those of why you would gather data. Let's start with enhancing the customer experience.
Yeah, well, especially if you're, at least in terms of an online of like an online presence of a business or company, and even not an online business or presence, if there's a storefront or anything like that, there's no, without talking to someone, there's no way of kind of getting, or like physical interaction, there's no way of getting, I guess, their feedback on whatever their experience was, aside, especially for a company like JustWannaQuilt, since you guys have followers all over the country. There's no real way to always like talk to people and figure out what their experience is or difficulty is.
Yeah.
Well, and at least like forge that relationship. So when it comes to data gathering, you can really collect like their feedback, whether they like this or they like that more, and you can really hone on those, the positives that the customers really like, but more importantly, you can hone on the things that the customers didn't like, and how to better amend those things to make them a positive experience for that customer or that follower, and in turn getting more and building on your weaknesses. That's really what I saw as a big upside of data gathering.
Yeah. And we've been data gathering forever, right? So you get student evals you take evaluations for every class you take. And we're always, as a society, gathering data about like what people like or didn't like or any of those things. So you're just saying that's one of the examples of things. The other one was just data collecting. The number 2 on data collecting, I see it as that it becomes a value in itself. The data itself becomes valuable, whether that's like some people selling it, which we're so not selling our data, but also just in the sense of that already people are asking like, well, what are your numbers? What's the data? What's all of that? And so that's sort of how we understand the success or failure of a particular thing is the data, right?
That's exactly right. I mean, JustWannaQuilt, of course, isn't selling data, but I talk about it in the video that you're referring to, is that bigger companies want podcasts like JustWannaQuilt to maybe endorse their product, and you're not selling their data or anything, but they're just looking to see how big, let's say, your email list is and see how many people you reach. So having the data to back that up and having a strong following, and having the data to show that is kind of like the proof that you can tell this company, look, I can endorse your product or promote your product on my channel, and we can work out an agreement and get some sort of avenues for
it's huge.
Revenue. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it just legitimizes who you are.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. And we're seeing the data isn't just about being big. It's about how many are active and where you are. One of my law students was saying that there's a sweet spot of where people are interested in a particular company where they're big, but they're not gargantuan. Gargantuan is a different level. So it's interesting that like who the data is, how it operates is all really important to everybody at this point. Data is a big thing in our world.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost, in a sense, it's almost like a currency. Well,
it is a currency.
It is a currency, quite literally. Right.
Yeah, it is a currency. It's really interesting, right?
It's really fascinating, especially when I looked through and read articles about data. It's like, wow, this whole world that I never really, this whole kind of like monetary world where I never really knew about. Like cash
it's
and
weird,
stuff. Like
right?
That.
Yeah, sometimes it translates into like marketing dollars that people are willing to do stuff for you, but sometimes just cultural capital that you're cool because you have a certain amount of followers or email list or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so how does gathering data boost a company's online presence? Like how does gathering someone's email or something else, how does that help you get a bigger presence?
Yeah, so I think a good way to explain this is to go back to the email list. So if you have that healthy email list and you can send recipients on the email list promotions or campaigns.
Yeah.
And there's always with the spreading of all of your campaigns and your promotions or whatever you want, is the ability to share that with other people. So maybe one person of like a quilting circle or like a quilting group that meet like once a week and quilt together and talk about whatever. They say, oh wow, I just got this email. I just got this email, or maybe it's the middle of the week and they haven't met, and they share it on Facebook, or they send it into their quilting group chat. And then so now you have 5 more customers.
Yeah.
That just happened almost instantaneously from when they got that email to when they shared it to all those people. And they're like, oh, wow, let's look at this.
Yeah, right. That someone was telling me that it's the only way you have to like communicate effectively. Now we have an email list, but we don't send that much out on our email list yet. I mean, we do for our sew along, but we don't like generally send stuff out. We'll get there. But you can kind of see it's very organized. What's interesting about the email list is it's like right now we're on Facebook. So we like post things on Facebook and we got comments and there's kind of a dialogue. People who seem to use their email list and sending out particularly newsletters very much as like keeping people up to date on what they're doing, on products, on endorsements, on all this. So it's very much like a one-way trip in some way of like just what it says, a newsletter, which is really different than say other things. But I guess the podcast is also kind of one way too, right? We're not having a lot of dialogue back. So that's interesting. But that being able to tell people what's going on, you're saying in a newsletter, helps them better understand what is going on. And so that might increase the numbers.
Yeah, exactly. It's just all about just spreading the word on on the venture and having to spread like wildfire, because once people, it's so easy to share things.
Yeah, it's so funny. It feels like, I don't know, in this world, this social media world, it feels like building an audience is super important. And spreading the word, what you're saying, and then also consumerism. And it's kind of funny because we're not really like, we don't make anything, right? We're not a company.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of a thing. But it's interesting how this world is built. It's built for 2 things, right? Building bigger, actually probably just one maybe, like building a bigger consumer base. That's kind of what it does. That's it. That's the whole thing.
It. That's kind of at the core of what data gathering is, or at least for the utilization of the data that you gather.
What do you think of that? So do you think that's like the social media deep on you? So is social media really, I mean, maybe it didn't start this way, but does it feel like it's just another space, all these platforms for consumerism? Like, are we just consumers, or do you think it's more than that?
Well, I definitely think you're right in terms of, I think maybe from the get-go, social media was about kind of showing who you are and having a curated life experience. That was kind of what it was. I feel like at least what Facebook and Instagram kind of pitched in the beginning. But now when I go through my Instagram feed, or I'm looking at Facebook and I scroll through like constant ads, or even now on Instagram I can click on a photo and let's say it's like, I don't know, an advertisement for Gap or something, or maybe it's just like a person that I follow, maybe like a CrossFit athlete or something, and I press on the photo and all of a sudden the clothes that they're wearing, there's price tags, and I can click on that and it immediately directs me to the site where I can buy that.
Yeah, so interesting, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Pinterest, I think Pinterest is the worst one of that. Like I mean, there's a lot of backlash because Pinterest got so much more commercial. But it's interesting. Our world we're just inundated with buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this. It's interesting, right?
It's definitely, I don't know. It's definitely like diluted the social media experience, at least what it originally was.
It's funny because, like, you know, with Black Friday just happening and all that and all the email, did you get a ton of email coming in on all the different things?
Yeah.
It gets to the point where it's so much saturation, like you don't even notice them anymore. Does that feel like that to you?
Exactly. That's one of the problems with we discussed in Dr. Gard's class is that nowadays, at least in terms of the startup, people kind of like look through the email box and they're just like, oh, whatever, and they just like pick all the ones from like Gap, Banana Republic, all the big names, and they just delete them all, or
just delete them.
Yeah, or they don't.
I don't even delete them. I just leave them there. It's funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's funny though because now I'm kind of in this mode that like, well, I want their advertisements just because if I'm looking for something, I kind of want to already have it in my box. Yeah, and also like even on like Facebook ads and stuff, like I'm looking for, I don't know, a new phone or something. I'm kind of expecting them to recognize that I've been searching on Amazon. And so now they're going to send me ads for stuff. Like it's efficient. And so there's a real sense of like, it's not now. I don't feel like I'm being harassed as much as like, let's get the shopping done quickly. And if you can just send to the, you can know that I'm shopping somewhere else, that you can then send me ads. I would appreciate that. So I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you ever feel that way? Like, I'm just like, okay, good. I was looking for socks. I'm glad you're giving me all these ads for socks. You know?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's obviously sometimes a nuisance when I have to spend like an extra like 30 minutes clearing 1,000 emails out of my mailbox.
Yeah.
Every few months, I'm just like, okay, I should probably do this.
Totally. It's craziness.
But it's definitely helpful in terms of when you're looking through like I don't know, if I want to buy new shoes or something like that, and I say, oh my God, those are so expensive. Then 20 minutes later, I get like, oh, 20% off.
I know, it's good, right?
Like I'm like,
I'm like, hey, thanks. Yeah.
So I definitely know what you mean when you're talking about that.
Yeah. It's funny because with the consumerism with quilting, people are always like, oh, everyone's buying too much stuff with quilting. But it's like, well, that's just like kind of the world we live in, right? Like it isn't that like quilting is a capitalist endeavor right now. It's everything is. Do you think?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
That's so true. I mean, I take another class with Dr. Gard, and that's exactly what we talk about.
Really?
The kind of digitization of all sorts of modes of production in terms of distribution, production, and consumerism. All that together kind of makes for a more refined making of goods, and you can make more and more goods that target individual customers where you can. That's why we talk about like a toothpaste aisle where there's all sorts of different kinds of toothpastes, and there's all these. I don't know where I'm going here. I kind of lost my thought.
Yeah. No, so I know I was there when he was taking all the pictures of the toothpaste aisle, which took a long time. But Ron was my husband, your professor, was, when you go down the toothpaste aisle, we have so much choice, it's out of control, right? Yeah. That like toothpaste aisle goes on and on and on. And that's true of everything. And that we see that in quilting, we see that in biking, we see that in whatever your hobby is or your interest is, or even just buying toothpaste, where you're just inundated with choice in a really amazingly crazy way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so let's talk talk a little bit about a couple of the data gathering systems that you looked at. Well, first you looked at Gleam.io, which is we've used 3 times now for giveaways. So it's a system that allows people to do giveaways and other contests and all kinds of things. And as part of it, you make a decision if people usually give their email address as part of whatever they're doing, right?
Yes.
So what did you think of Gleamio?
Well, aside from what you already said, I thought it was, in terms of, I guess, like a more nuanced function of Gleamio, I thought it was really interesting that during these giveaways, when people give their emails and they post links on whatever social media account, or they post like a picture with a hashtag or whatever it may be that's set up for the giveaway that Gleamio does, I thought it was interesting that you could reward certain kinds of postings, whether it was a Facebook post or Instagram post. And we talked a little about
with more points. I didn't know that until you pointed it out. Right. So you can give like 10 points for something versus 1 point. It pushes people in a certain direction. So we tried that this time, thanks to you, which is really interesting to see.
Which goes to show the versatility and the power that the data collection has, and just data in general, is that you can mold the consumers or shift the consumers in a way where you want them to act in a certain way. And
it's weird, right?
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah,
it's totally nuts. So we had we gathered data from Gleamio, and then we used Zapier to take the data and move it to Mailchimp. So tell me first about what Zapier is, and then we'll get on to Mailchimp.
Well, Zapier is. Sorry, I have like a million.
It could be Zapier. I've never heard it pronounced.
Yeah.
So this is the one that like connects, like you do something on one platform or app, and then if you literally connect it with some sort of software, and it sends that data to different places like HubSpot or Mailchimp or like it sends whatever you gather data in one place and it sends it to a whole bunch of other places.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So tell me what your thoughts about that one are.
Well, I like Zapier for the most part in terms of like its integration abilities, where you can send it all different sorts of places for wherever you may need. But I thought that was a little, at least for the entrepreneur or the person organizing it, it can be a little bit complicated at times.
It's complicated. It's kind of chaotic.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
You can see what they're getting at, and I like it, but so what I see with, it's exactly it. It's a little bit complicated. Why is it confusing and complicated?
Well, in terms of there's over like 1,000 different apps that you can integrate all the data and send it all, like literally more than 1,000 different places.
Right.
But on how many places you send it to, wherever you send it to, whatever it links to. So like, let's say it links to Mailchimp and you don't have a Mailchimp account, then you have to make a Mailchimp account to use that function. Or if you link it to another thing, you have to link it to that. So you end up with all these different accounts, which is which is just so confusing sometimes.
Totally. I feel like I'm at there now. The integrations. Okay, first of all, there's some free, but then so you could take data from coming in from Gleam.io. Like someone gives us their email and we can send it to, I'm just going to list from their thing. We can send it to Google Sheets, Gmail, Twitter, Slack, a calendar, Trello, Google Drive, HubSpot, Google Contacts, Airtable. And this is they have thousands of them. So the essence of our whole world, which is this one little piece of data can go 1,000 different places. And then, I find that it's so overwhelming to there's so many organizing tools out there that I'm kind of disorganized.
Exactly. You need to at least have one person, maybe a team of people on it at all times.
Right. It's craziness. Exactly. It's very stressful. We use HubSpot to keep track of contacts of our guests and people we may interview. And we now with HubSpot, which is people use it for sales, but we're just using it as a place to gather stuff. Now it allows me HubSpot directly without Zapier. Every time I email them, I can click a button and then that email will go into their profile in HubSpot. So again, it's this data manipulation that's kind of remarkable, and it's really not very old. It's kind of remarkable that in the last 5 years, we've seen this sort of fluidity of data over different spaces in kind of remarkable ways.
Exactly. I mean, that's the emergence of these companies, kind of like Zapier, and Mailchimp, and all sorts of companies like that have just happened in the last 5 years. Even though the internet's been around for, I don't want to say quite a long time, but
no, well, just because you're a babe, it doesn't seem long for me.
Exactly.
Right. Do you remember a time without the internet?
No. I'm a native digital.
Right, you're native. When are you born? What year?
99.
99, right. So you're our digital natives that you don't remember a world before the internet.
I do not.
Yeah, my kid doesn't either. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, so Mailchimp. Let's talk about Mailchimp. So Mailchimp, we use Mailchimp. What is Mailchimp? And then we'll talk about how we use it.
Well, Mailchimp is kind of, they all have overlapping functions, but it's basically, it also has integration capabilities of Google in terms of connecting forms and data from platforms. You can post things on. It's almost like
Mailchimp is I think of Mailchimp as you have all your email and now you're going to send something out. And so you can send out an email or a newsletter, or that's kind of how people use Mailchimp, is kind of taking, and you can gather data in Mailchimp. But for us, we have a website, then people subscribe on our website. We have a little thing called Constant Contact that takes that email and sends it to Mailchimp. And then in Mailchimp, we can decide who we're sending things to and how often. Is that right?
So you can do things like email campaigns. And I know Mailchimp is, I really like it, but it's just as bad as the other ones in terms of all the slew of options that it provides. You can do landing pages and pop-up forms.
Yeah.
You can make postcards and
so much stuff. Right. So much stuff. Now, what's
Facebook
interesting about the ones we've talked about so far, Gleam.io, Zapier, and Mailchimp, is that all of them have a freemium model, which means what? So what is a freemium model?
So the freemium model is basically just you can use their product for free as long as you sign up. But at least in terms of a company like JustWannaQuilt, it doesn't really work that well. I mean, it might work for like a project, for a class or something like that.
So sometimes you have to, like for Gleam.io, we paid like $50 for the month to do then we stopped it. But for Mailchimp, when looking there, you can have 2,000 subscribers and 12,000 email per month. So I think we're still in the basic free one. We haven't gone to, I don't think we're past that yet. Mm-hmm. I don't know. We might be, because I don't know. The students do a lot of stuff and I'm just like, sure, I don't. So we we might be paying for it. Oh yeah, we are. We're not on a free plan. We are on the $10 a month plan. I'm just looking here. Okay. So, what's the other? Zapier, you get a certain amount of zaps, but you're kind of limited in what you can do on the free one. Now, so what we've done, we gathered some email, probably on the website or on paper. We sent it to Mailchimp. We either sent it to Mailchimp through a Zap or just directly, but usually, it depends on how, but you do need to send it somewhere, and that's what Zap is doing. Yes. Now, the last part is gathering the data. There's a number of different ways to gather that initial data. You talk about just a form. We decided after all our fanciness, we just did an orange piece of paper at Houston for people to sign up for. But there's also other ways. So tell me a little bit about, like, making forms isn't hard, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, aside from a physical form, which was kind of a necessity of being at a conference.
Yeah, and we were just worried about the time, and we also were worried we didn't know how strong our internet connection was going to be. So we just decided that we would do it. I think it was a cop-out. I think we should have kind of gone with the whole iPad thing, but we were, there was a lot going on. Yes. So tell me, like, there's a bunch of companies out there. So I say, okay, we're gonna make a form for our Facebook group so that we can gather some data from them because it's time. But tell me, how hard are these forms to use? And give me an example of, like, Google Form or Typeform? There's a bunch of them out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they're not particularly that hard to use. You basically you just set up an account. They already have the templates. They already have a template in place where you can pick certain questions. The questions can be interactive to make it a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
But it's pretty straightforward in terms of just creating one. And then when it comes to actually gathering that data, I mean, there's email campaigns and things like that. But in terms of at least what I'm trying to say, in terms of getting that email, sometimes there's on like a website or company website or anywhere, they can just sign up for. You can say, "Oh, do you want to join our monthly?"
Right, like a subscription. Like websites have subscription forms all the time. The subscription forms usually are just like your name and your email. Right, it's really basic. Yeah.
And there are things like landing pages, which is when they when a internet user is trying to look at the website, it brings you straight to a landing page where it says, "Oh, enter your email for, like, welcome to our site. Enter your email for a chance to win like 20% off."
Right, and everybody's just trying to get those emails. I think it's kind of weird personally, because I just think, like, I mean, okay, we'll get the emails, that's fine, whatever. But it is an interesting concept that right now everybody wants an email list. It's like a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and there's even multiple layers, like exactly what I'm talking about. There's that landing page which takes you immediately to a place where you can fill in your email, and then even if you click X or you somehow sidestep that landing page, when you're scrolling through and maybe the website sees that you're stopped on something a little bit longer, there's a pop-up form that says, "Oh, you like this? Well, enter your email, like spin spin a wheel to
right.
when like
There's
another
always,
20
everybody's trying to get the email. Even when you're at like
Exactly.
shops, right? Like,
Mhm.
and one shop was sort of bragging about, well, we have a 5,000 people on our email list. This is part of the cultural capital, the capital. Like
Yeah.
the value of the email is super huge at the moment. It'll be interesting to see if it continues, but at this moment, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, this is so interesting. Anything else that we should know about data gathering? And I don't think we asked you to, but when do you not give people your email? Like, did you ever see any conversations about like withhold your email because it is the valuable thing that you have? Or do you, and the other thing is I always wonder about, like, I often give an email address that I just never check and I don't care about. So when I come to something that wants my email, did you see any discussions about sort of that your email is valuable, so you shouldn't be giving it out, or people just don't care?
I mean, I guess it's always good to like keep your wits about you when you're putting out personal information on the internet. But
Yeah.
in terms of, I don't know. I think I've heard arguments, or at least what I've read, that it's almost better to just kind of give in and give into like this internet, and
you have no privacy. It doesn't matter. Just
exactly.
like
They're gonna find
just embrace it.
Exactly. Just
Yeah.
embrace it, because if you embrace it, the better off you're going to be in terms of interacting with it.
Right.
And
okay, so you are 19, 20, around that age, right?
Yeah, 19.
So 19. So how often do you give your email address out when you're on these websites? How much do you give that property right out when you're surfing?
Oh, I mean, I all the time, like
all the time.
Like it's nothing. Yeah, exactly.
Now, do you use a separate email account? Do you have like one email account? Like, how many email accounts do you have? And when do you use particular email accounts?
Oh, that's a good question. At first, before I started this digital data gathering, I didn't have a separate email at first. I mean, I had my school email, and then I had my personal email, which is just my email. But when I started looking into things, I was like, oh, I really should use, like, more and more people are talking about how they create like an email just for like coupons or like if you're on
just like a junk
LLP
email
looking for boots. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you can just always like look at that instead of cluttering your email. But I mean, right now I have 3 different emails.
Yeah.
And even then.
Now, how old were you when you got your first email account?
That's a good question. I think it was in the 7th grade. I remember it.
7th grade.
My 7th grade English teacher, Mr. Perry, he was really adamant about incorporating tech into our class. He said, you're going to need to have an email. No one no one
knew what it was.
Yeah, exactly. No one really knows what it is. But here, Mr. Perry is making 7th graders get emails and Gmails, and we didn't know what to do with it. I think we did like wiki pages and stuff like that. And
so what year is that? What year is that around?
That had to be 2000 and I graduated 8th grade in 2013, so it was
2011.
Yeah,
2011. Yeah, this is like this time when everybody's sort of recognizing like you got to sort of jump in. So it's interesting that you're part of that whole jumping in movement. Now, I have to ask you, were you on Facebook? Do you use Facebook now, or is that not something you?
Yeah, well, I mean, my parents were always
your parents do.
My parents were always weird about having me get a Facebook, but eventually when I went to high school, I got a Facebook.
In high school, you were.
I know a lot of my peers thought this way too. It's like when you go into high school, you're gonna want to have a way to like connect with people, or like ask something about homework, or like want to hang out, or sometimes. Or somehow like get to know each other besides just.
And for you in high school, Facebook still was a viable place to do that. Do you still use Facebook that much now in college?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of socializing, I don't really do that. I think a lot of my friends, and this is the case with me as well, is that we mostly like look at Facebook just for looking at videos or like sports videos and things like that. Because there's still, in terms of like content, there's always like. Since on Instagram or Snapchat, you can't really watch like long, like a video past like a minute or anything like that. And I feel like that's something Facebook still has in terms of, or even in terms of like streaming too. I know it has streaming, but it's getting there. They've
made some improvements recently, but like Facebook really captured that.
Oh yeah.
That Facebook Live stuff. They did a good job with it.
Exactly. And I know that that's really the only reason why we go on anymore, other than
Interesting.
my mom sends me links and links and links and links and links to.
Yes. Well, your mom sounds like a good mom.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to end this. Encourage your mom to reach out and join our quilting army. Just go to Facebook, she's got to listen to the podcast because you're going to be on it, right? So we'd love to interview your mom. Let her know that. And tell her to join the army, join the Facebook group, JustWannaQuilt, and message me to say, hey, I'm Jensen's mom, and we'll have her on. It would be so awesome.
Awesome.
If she's interested. That'd be fun, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Totally. Like, that's craziness.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I really appreciate you going first, and you're amazing. And we are going to process these and get these up soon, and I'll let Dr. Guard know when they are, so you guys can listen and send it to everybody and help us grow our army and our listenership by reaching a new audience.
Yeah, we'll do. Thank you for having me on and talking. This has been like such a fun academic experience, just working.
Very cool.
On a quilt.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. All right, cool. Hold on just a sec. I'm going to turn off all the recordings.
Yep.
So you've been listening to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School. And I'm Elizabeth Townsend Guard. If you like this podcast, keep listening. Also, we have a Facebook group. Come join us. We talk about a lot of things. We also have an Instagram account. And of course, most importantly, I really hope you get a chance to quilt today.